Hello. Oneness Evolving here. Very happy to see you. And I'm going to switch the camera around because spring is here and it's beautiful. And while I'm just getting started, I want you to see. Oh, it's a bit hard with the sun behind, but oh, there you go. That's a bit better. The cherry blossom is just lovely. I mean, the tree's at its best. So we have to celebrate this. We have to enjoy this. It's beautiful. Look at that. And the cherry snow is actually starting to fall already. Look on the lawn. See, the blossoms are starting to fall. And it's very beautiful when that happens. Hello, it's great to see you, gorgeous being. Wherever you are, whoever you are, it's lovely to see you. I'm just out here getting warmed up before I tell you what I've been doing this week for God of Me. God of Me is this crazy project that I have been doing for a while now, where I'm writing stuff that's been useful to me. And I'm going to put it on a website, but I've got to write it first. Can't have a website without content. And I always start here. Oh my God, look at this. See these seed pods? I have to get out here with snippers and cut them off before they ripen, or there will be an invasion. But you've still got to enjoy the granny's bonnet because it's beautiful, and you can see I've got a few here. And then, of course, there is the Cineraria. Oh, look, there's one sprouting up here. Cineraria. Oh, look, we have a bumblebee. The bluebells are getting old. They do that. But they still look beautiful with the fuchsia and the other fuchsia and the rose coming through them. I really love this part of the garden now. It's just beautiful. And look at this, these fuchsias. The foliage is getting fresh and new with spring. And we got lots of flowers, and they're so brilliant. And it's just the time of year when everything's gorgeous here. And look, this is starting to happen. I don't know what it's called. I can't tell you. Give me some focus here. Camera gets confused. There you go. But these flowers smell so good when they open. And look, the neighbour's maple. I just love maples. The foliage is so delicate and it's very bright, beautiful green in spring. So there's lots happening out here. It's colourful. And I'm going to show you the coriander. This is what coriander flowers look like. They're really tiny, but they're really beautiful. And have a close-up on one of these as well. Sorry about the shadow. Let me do this differently. Here's a purple one. That's better. So, it's pretty glorious out here. The Spiraxis is pretty much done. Last thing I'm going to show you is over here, because it's kind of cool. We have the new marigolds coming out. So bright. Really good to eat in salads. Great source of lutein. But I don't want you to miss out on these. Look at the sedum. And look at these beautiful shapes. The shape of these cacti, they just keep growing. And they're just really flowering like crazy this year. And look at the lilies sprouting up. So it's all happening here. Now, I'm going to go inside, because it's easier to concentrate. The garden is very distracting. And tell you what I've been writing about this week. Once a week on a Wednesday morning for me, or perhaps a Tuesday afternoon or evening for you, I carve out time. I don't go to work. I work here instead. Just put the key in its place, take my hat off, and I write for this project that I'm doing. Excuse me. Shut the door. I'll get myself organised and I'll tell you what I've done. I actually finished this morning and thought, oh, my brain's a bit tired. Hi, Robin. Lovely to see you. So, just getting organised. Because I really had to think. I had to ask a lot of questions of myself, and I didn't know the answers for some of them, and I had to look them up, and then I had to think, God, that's complicated. Can I make that simpler? And how much of this is useful anyway? And so anyway, this is what I did. The first thing I did was I went back to what I looked at, what I started pulling. It was like I was throwing mud on a wall last week, just trying to get my teeth into another big apple. And I knew it was a mess. I said it was a mess at the end of last week, and it was a mess. But I can say that I have managed to sort out that, I've managed to untangle that story, and I'm pretty pleased about it, because there were moments when I thought, well, how do I put this together? Because there was this big piece that I've been writing, and then there's a bit that was after it, which is like, well, that doesn't connect anymore. So how do I untangle this? And I have untangled it, and I'm not going to rabbit on about that anymore. But I am really pleased that I actually managed to untangle the mess, because it was. So we're still talking about manifestation, even though I'm talking about quantum physics. Hi, Carrie Ann, lovely to see you. Still talking about manifestation, and the reason why I'm talking about protons and Planck spherical units and all these crazy, really abstract physical things is because if we're going to change matter with our mind, and assuming that that is actually possible, which I've really started to believe that it is, because it's been done before so many times and people keep doing it, it's like, this has to be possible. Well, we better know what it is that we're actually changing. Excuse me. And, what is matter? And, of course, the last little while, I've been talking about matter and the fact that matter is mostly space, and there are these teeny tiny little bits of so-called stuff that you can actually measure that we call matter with all of the space. And what the hell's in the space? And, what is it? What's going on here? And this week, long and short of it, the piece I'm going to talk about, and if you follow me for free on Patreon, you can hear my weekly chapter readings where I will read you what I've written. It doesn't cost anything to do that, and then you'll get the story as I wrote it. But what I wrote about this week is the fact, really, that everything spins. And I was thinking, how do I explain about a Planck spherical unit? Because you remember I've been going on about the fact that if you imagine that the Planck is the size of a grain of sand, then by comparison, the size of the proton, right, and the proton is one of the particles that sits in the nucleus of the atom, the size of the proton, by compared to the size of a grain of sand, you'd have to get in a spaceship and fly for 4 years and 134 days at light speed, and then you would have flown across how big the proton is. It's really, 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 really small compared to a proton. So, 4 1/3 or 4 point, I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But it's a bloody long distance to be travelling 4 years and 134 days in a spaceship at light speed, which you can't actually do because you turn back into energy at light speed. But imagine that you can. That's the proton, and the Planck is a grain of sand. So the Planck is really, really, really small. But the thing that I tackled this time is the fact that we have to stop thinking of Plancks as grains of sands. And Planck, by the way, is not P-L-O-N-K like you drink wine. It's Planck as in P-L-A-N-C-K, after Max Planck, who was the physicist who actually was kind of the father of quantum physics, and he discovered this whole thing which led to these little particles being named after him. But they're not really particles. Okay, we got to stop thinking of them like grains of sand. So I was talking about that, and I was thinking, well, okay, the first thing I'm going to say is that they're spinning, and I think I've mentioned that they're spinning. They're spinning, but what actually is spinning? And those are the two questions that I tried to answer today. And so I know that they are spinning vortexes of electrostatic energy, and at that point I had to say, okay, I face it, I don't know what electrostatic energy is. And I looked it up. And it gets messy fairly fast. But what I learned, the key thing that matters to me from what I learned from what I read, is that electrostatic energy, if you have a balloon and you rub it on your hair, because it gets a charge, and then it will pick things up, or it'll push things away. It's like it's a charge, but it's a charge that's not moving. You have charged particles, and they either attract like a magnet, or they repel because they're the same. Positives repel, negatives repel, but if you have positive and negative, they attract. So the charged particles They're just sitting there and they're all full of charge, like when you're getting really pissed off and you're ready to scream, but you don't. You've got a charge. Well, electrostatic particles. Hi, Rain. Yeah, I like my haircut. It's simple. So electrostatic particles, they carry energy. It's potential energy. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. If we're talking about manifestation, and all this energy that's spinning is just potential, because it's not flowing anywhere, right? Electrical energy is when you have charged particles that move. They're actually flowing from A to B down a wire or whatever. Electrostatic energy ain't going nowhere. It's just charge. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because somehow or other, and I don't understand how a electrostatic charge can spin, right? And this is me putting things together. I don't actually know. But if I imagine for the moment that I'm not too far from the truth, and who the hell knows what the truth is, because I haven't heard Nassim Haramein explain about this yet, because I think for him the concept of electrostatic energy is so basic that he doesn't feel he needs to explain it. But I'm thinking, how can electrostatic energy move? It's static, but it's spinning? What? Anyway, if we assume that it is all this potential energy that isn't going anywhere, but it's spinning, it's a vast sea of charge, it's massive, there's so much of it, all these tiny little pieces are spinning. Well, there's a lot of stuff in our universe that spins. And I wanted to talk about this spinning thing and what the deal is with it. So if you've ever had a sink of water and you pull the plug out, well, the water spins down the plug hole, right? And I mean, it just has to, because that's what happens, but there's a void in the middle. And if you have a glass of water, just a little bit of water in the bottom, because if it's too full, it doesn't work very well, and you swirl it around, you're making a little vortex by adding energy to that water, and it spins up the sides, and you get a hole in the middle. And if you have a tropical storm system that develops over a sea, where you get hot, moist air going up and it meets cold air up in the mid-atmosphere, and it makes all these thunderstorms and they cluster together. And because of the spin that the Earth has, that system starts to rotate. You get a storm system, big, small. If it's big enough, it's a hurricane or a cyclone or a typhoon, and it's got an eye in the middle. It's got a void in the middle. And if you have a galaxy that spins, it's the same shape, it's the same figure, and it's got a void in the middle too. It's called a black hole. And so you see this pattern where you have spinning, something, and a void in the middle. No matter where you look in the universe, if you know where to look, then you can see that. And so, okay, this is a pattern. What's the deal with the Planck spherical unit? It's also spinning, and it's energy. And the cool thing is that it also, according to the maths that this scientist guy has done, it all works out. And you're talking about a really tiny particle that if he plugs it into his equations, you come out with the size of the universe. I mean, that's really hard to do by accident. This thing is spinning energy, and it's got a black hole in the middle too. Just for fun. All of those Planck spherical units have little tiny black holes in them. And this is a bit I haven't written about yet, but they're all connected by these teeny tiny little wormholes that have a name. They're called Einstein-Rosen bridges. And the black hole thing is not, I'm not spouting bullshit here. All of Einstein's field equations, which of course means nothing to you, but Einstein wrote equations about the field, they all predict black holes. And when you plug the information into the equations, you get black holes. There are black holes everywhere, and they're not bad places to be. He even reckons our whole universe is a black hole, because the math shows that it is. The universe is a pretty cool place, so not bad to be in a black hole. So, Plancks, galaxies, black holes in the middle. Protons, black holes in the middle. Sun, black hole in the middle. Again, none of this has been, I think some of it's been proved. I mean, we know that there are black holes in the middle of galaxies. That's been accepted. There's strong thought and evidence and suggestion that there is a black hole in the centre of the sun, because it solves a lot of the problems that people have with why the sun behaves the way it does. It doesn't actually make sense, the common thing of having this, this core that's doing fission and it's getting more dense and throwing off all this energy and that it's going to die out someday. There's a completely different theory that I'm not even going to try to explain to you about why that's not so, and there's a black hole in the middle. So anyway, the point I want to make is that everything spins. We're on the planet. It's spinning. We're spinning. Our atoms spin. Our protons spin. Our Planck spherical units spin. Everything spins. And it doesn't matter where you look. So, and it's spinning electrostatic potential. And if we're going to manifest, well then potential and energy, it should be interesting to us. Because this is the thing, I wanted to make sure that I understand, that I said this because I wrote myself some notes. So remember I said that from, if the Planck is the grain of sand, which it's not, it's spinning electrostatic charge. Then from here to Alpha Centauri, which is a long way, is how big the proton is. And everything's spinning. Hi, Catherine! Well, and remember that we imagined last week that from here to Alpha Centauri becomes this big sphere. It's huge, it's massive. I mean, you can't do it, but just imagine that. And it's all full of those grains of sand, right? But now swap out the grains of sand for all of these tiny spinning vortexes of energy that have black holes in the middle, and they're all connected. They're all talking to each other. And again, this is physics. I'm not making this shit up. And that's just happening inside one proton in your body. Never mind all the other protons in your body. Never mind all the space that's in between all the protons and the electrons of your body. It's all full of that stuff. That's what space is full of, and that's what matter's made of, is these tiny plonks. And it took me such a long time to realise, because I have to listen and I have to think and I have to figure it out, because the concepts are really abstract. And I know that people struggle to understand Nassim's work because it's not easy to explain quantum physics to people, because it's not like saying there's a tree outside and this is my hand. It's also small. It's really hard to imagine. Well, why do you think I've started talking about Toyota Land Cruisers and the state of Texas and the Dome of the Basilica? And, you understand, right? It's not easy to explain, but I'm a good thing explainer, so that's what I'm doing. So all of that energy, that spinning potential, that makes up everything. And this is the part I haven't written, but I've started mapping it out. I've started, kind of bullet pointing out the story. All of that, whether it is just the kind of sea of the field, all of these loose little spinning Planck spherical units that aren't really doing much, but they're just being in the space, or they're organised as protons, which then becomes other things. Hi, Laurie! All of that is an enormous amount of energy, and energy always carries information. Always. Energy always carries information. You can't have one without the other. And so if they're all connected by teeny tiny wormholes, and they are, and you have even one of those things, and you have uncounted numbers of them inside your own body, never mind around you, well, then you should be connected to all of the information in the universe. If you can tune into it, if you can tap into it, if you can realize you don't have to go anywhere, because the very substance of what's making you up, these spinning little pieces of charge, of electrostatic charge that's spinning, and they intersect and they cohere to make energy, or they don't, and then you have plasma that you can't see, but believe me, it's there, it's all around you. All of that information is there, and it's networked. It's a universal network. And we can tune into it. And more than that, the thing of Planck, the sea of Plancks, because they're either hooking together and making patterns and being matter, or they're not. And the vast majority of all of that spinning energy is just spinning energy. It's not been organised into anything. And that's cool, because there's an inexhaustible, enormous supply of it. And if it was all matter, I mean, nothing would exist. You've got to have a little bit of matter and mostly energy. And all of that information is there. And it's a C. It's a plasma. I mentioned that before. And again, I'm a little bit shaky on how a plasma that's made of Planck spherical units actually works. But the piece that I do know, because I've heard Nassim say it, is that this plasma obeys the laws of fluid dynamics. So just like the water spins when you pull the plug out of the bath, so does the field spin. But instead of making a void, this is a piece that completely blew my mind when I finally realized it. When water spins, it goes down the plug, there's a hole down the middle. And don't quote me on this because I'm still putting this together, but I understand enough that I can burble about it, sort of. When the field starts to spin in coherence, you know how if you have a flock of starlings, a big flock of starlings, and they all spin and they suddenly turn all together, it's like it's an emergence. Or if you have a school of fish and vroom, that it goes from being silver to black, and they look like one organism. Or a herd of wildebeest. It just looks like one thing going over the plain. You get far enough away from it, it looks like one thing. When the field becomes organized, when those Plancks, because imagine they're spinning things, but they're not all standing like this. They're all at 6s and 7s and 10s and 50,000 and 921s. But when something comes along and organizes those Plancks and they start to rotate and spin in alignment, you get matter. This is actually how it works. I was watching him explain, doing a lecture and saying, he walks over to the lectern and he says, over here, the Plancks are just, they're aligned, they're spinning together, there's coherence. And so we have a thing that we can touch because there's enough coherence that they've made a matrix, they've made a pattern, they've made a something that emerges as matter. And when there's not coherence, you have plasma and you don't think there's anything there. But there is. It's just we've got no receptors to notice the stuff. Just as well, we go mad. So it's fluid. Fluid responds to resonance and vibration. What do you think it is that could create coherence in that fluid of infinite energy and possibility and potential? Potential energy, it's spinning. It's waiting for something to happen to make those little spinners hook up, connect, become protons, and the protons connect up with atoms and electrons and become things, and then they make molecules, and then whatever it is. What do you think it is that does that? There has to be a resonance, there has to be a pattern, there has to be someone singing a note or somebody playing a drum that says organized like this. That is how manifestation works. And it's nothing that you haven't already heard about being clear in your intention and very aligned energy with what it is. But for me, I just couldn't get my head and heart around it. This makes sense to me. I understand this. And the more I dig into it and try to explain it to you, I'm the greatest beneficiary. It's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And you wouldn't believe the stuff I could tell you about what I'm being taught and practicing in my daily meditation sessions. It's like, okay, let me learn some more of this today. Let me try this out. Hi, Mike. Let me see what I can do. Hi, Renee. Because I'm the resonance, and I don't stop here. You don't stop at the boundary of your skin or even 3 meters around you where your electromagnetic field is supposed to end. No. Where do you end? You're resonating the entire field all the time. Change your resonance. You're going to change what emerges from the field into matter. I know this is the truth. I can't pretend that I've got all the answers about how to do it, but there are enough recorded instances in history of people who did it, and in all the different traditions. It's not restricted to any particular way of thinking or philosophy or religion or whatever. All over through history, people have known how to do this. And so I remain curious and kind of, screw it, this has to be real. How does it work? And can I do it? Can I learn how? Maybe you can too. So that's God of me. That's God of me. And that's, we got to change our resonance. We got to change who we're being. And the only way you can do that is change your energy. And of course, that comes back to the other piece that I spent a year writing about, which is why that's so damn hard, because we get emotionally, chemically, epigenetically, genetically, biologically, neurologically addicted to being who we've been. And it's damn hard to change. I know, because I'm changing, because I don't want to be who I've been. But this is the journey. And so who you are every moment resonates the entire universe and emerges as the matter that you experience as your life. That I know to be true. So our journey is to work out how to change that, how to become someone else, if that's really possible, and I believe it is. People are doing it all over. This is just me explaining it for myself, and I'm loving having you with me. So if you would like to hear me read what I wrote today in a more coherent and sensible fashion, please follow me for free on Patreon, because I share my chapter readings. I call them that. It's not necessarily a chapter. I share my weekly writings in a video with my free followers every week. So that's all you have to do, is just jump over to God of Me and enjoy that. And if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Do feel free to like, subscribe, and share, and do all of the other Patreon thing. And mostly, thank you so much for showing up. I so enjoy sharing this with you. Until next week, very much love. Bye-bye for now.